is still emptying. I'm actually going to start. I knew I would have, I would be less popular than our dear friend, but that's how life is. I'll have to deal with it. That's okay. So welcome everyone. For some of you, I'm probably the only person standing between you and your lunch, so I will try to make this as fast and as interesting as possible. Fortunately, I'm not after lunch because otherwise everybody would be asleep. But anyway, so let's get started. My name is Mark. I come from a company called Isabel Group. If you're not from Belgium, you don't know that company most probably, but this is the leading B2B payments platform in Belgium. The shareholders of Isabel Group are the 4 major Belgian banks. And it actually turns out that 5 years ago, my company was acquired by Isabel Group, and I've been continuing to develop financial services APIs together with my team inside Isabel Group. And one of the products that we actually develop, and that's under my responsibility, for some of you who may have heard of it already, is actually Ponto. And what Ponto does in a nutshell, I didn't prepare any slides because everything is there, but it just bridges the gap between your favorite software and your bank account. Just a very small word about how all of this is possible. There is, for the past 3 years, a new regulatory framework in place in Europe, which is PSD2. PSD2 stands for Payment Service Directive 2. All right, so quite easy. It means that there was actually a PSD1, so Payment Service Directive 1, and that's one that was voted and transposed into a law much longer before. That's actually the Payment Service Directive that introduced the SEPA zone. So you probably all know what SEPA is, or at least have an idea of it, you've heard of it. And also introduced the payment scheme known as SEPA Credit Transfer, and also SEPA Direct Debit. So in French, that would be domiciliation or whatever. So PSD2 actually builds up on top of this and introduces new services and new constraints from a regulatory perspective. And one of the things that it forces is it asks banks to create interfaces so that I would say specific types of companies can access the account information of their customers in the bank and also initiate payments straight on the SCT scheme. So meaning that it's account to account, we're not there's no card in between, it's really account to account payments. So that's what PSD2 is bringing, and it brings a lot of constraints and a lot of complicated things that players like Isabel Group and more specifically Ponto abstract for companies like Odoo or others. Because in order to connect to those interfaces, you need to be regulated. So it means you need to be supervised by your national competent authority, which would be the National Bank of Belgium here, the DNB in the Netherlands, the ACPR in France, or the CSSF in Luxembourg. So you have to be regulated, so it means that you also get the nice audits once in a while, and you have very specific rules that you have to follow. Long story short, how do we bridge the gap between your bank and your favorite software? We actually have 2 types of integration, and what I'm going to show today is really an integration that I built on my spare time using what we call a custom integration. So it's just a client ID secret you can copy paste, but we have a more user-friendly way of doing things. Anyway, the topic that I really want to talk about today is how different accounting and real-time accounting is from financial operations, and more specifically, cash management, right? So in an accounting use case, you're going to look at usually the past or sometimes real time. In a cash management situation, you're going to want to look at the present and most probably also try to predict the future. And you're going to use this in a completely different way, but also for completely different questions, to answer completely different questions. We're not today providing a cash management solution, but I thought it would be interesting to see how Odoo, with all of the super powerful features, would be actually a fit for purpose to completely replace your banking app. So how can you do basic banking? So how can you embed banking services inside Odoo? And so I've worked a bit on my spare time. All of these are anonymized transactions based on my own personal transactions. So amounts have been altered slightly, everything has been scrambled and changed with completely bogus data, but the dates are the right ones, just to give you an idea that it's actually real traffic that I'm using here. The way it's connected to Ponto, like I said, is through the basic Ponto client ID and secret. So I created a custom integration in this product called Ponto. I just copy-pasted this, and then transactions have been just flowing. And the first thing that really struck me is, and for everybody that knows Odoo, it's a given, but how easy it is once you have that kind of data to group by, filter, all of that, all of these features that you wish you had in your bank application, and you don't, simply exist out of the box with just as little as a few lines of code. So I was really amazed to see how this works, and also how I could start adding additional information, additional metadata on those transactions. So here I've been playing around with the idea of having categories, for instance, and let's say I want to. Okay, so this one. Let me get a small one. Yeah. Okay, these ones are probably something like vending machines and stuff. So what's really cool as well is, again, out of the box, you get quite a lot of interesting things, such as, for instance, if I want to change, hang on, up, I want to change the category of this one. Messed it up. All right, the category is here. So if I want to change it with food and drinks, I can change it to food and drinks. I can also multi-edit. So there's really a lot of things that come out of the box that allow you to bring more value to your data. What I did as well is build a small dashboard, because if you want to do cache management, you need to see a bit how your data is actually moving, I would say, and what situation you're in today, and so that you can easily predict a bit the future. So I quickly built a dashboard using also chart libraries and whatnot, but long story short, you get a view on your cash in, how much cash has been coming in the last 90 days, how much cash has been going out of your account. And you get also a nice visualization of your balance, and also the different operations, or at least the different cash in and cash out operations every day. In order to really start drilling into that data, I wanted to go further, because it's nice to see it like this, but if you always have to create filters in your transaction list, that's not really that easy. So I really started working also on enhanced capabilities, like if you click on a bar, you get exactly everything from that day. So if you see, for instance, you have an unexpected drop in your cash of a specific day, you can actually drill down and see what happened. With the detail of that specific transaction. All of that, again, for the viewing part, completely outside of the box from Odoo. That graph, of course, I've made myself, but it really gives you a nice visualization to drill down into your cash movements, which is not necessarily something you will find in most accounting modules. Same for the balance. If you click on it, you get exactly what happened on that day. Remember that I also created categories. So obviously you want to know which categories you are spending the most on or the least on. And just by adding a few little things to your transactions, a few metadata, you can get some pretty nice insights on, for instance, okay, I tagged this one Project B. Okay, how much are we getting from Project B? This is all the incoming payments that have been tagged with Project B. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility, and not necessarily the same types of categories you would want to look for in an accounting use case. So can you really do this in a tailor-made way for your business perspective? So really what you want for your business itself. So yeah, that's really, in my opinion, a different way to look at the data. We've seen what the accounting module can do. I believe that there's really a place in Odoo for that kind of more cash-oriented or cash management-oriented module. Again, this is just something we've experimented with. Right now, there's no goal to make a product out of this, but it was really to play around with the idea of embedding banking information inside Odoo. And also, you can list all sorts of things. biggest expenses, biggest incomes, just by counterpart. So you can say, okay, so I see that this fake counterpart is actually my biggest source of expense. Can I do something about it? It gives you the list of all-time transactions for this one. This one is one of my top 5 source of income. Okay, can I make more business with them? So it really helps you drill down into that data from a purely business perspective. All right. Categories get created out of the box. You can also import them if you wish. Now, what's also interesting is when you talk about embedding banking and financial functionalities in a tool like Odoo, something you want to do is payments, right? So there's no way you can really do anything without having payments there. Again, out of the box, you get a lot of things. You can create a form that will allow you to do this. So we say UNICEF 31. 1, 2, 3, 4, hang on. That's the IBAN of the UNICEF. It's easy to remember, so you should probably also remember it. And so you can actually create your payment, which is pending, and click on the Sign Now button, and it will redirect you indeed to, in this case, Ponto. Since I'm running locally on my machine, I cannot show you this, but I've prepared a small video that I'm going to show you right away. That shows you actually a payment, how this payment flow could work. And so here, I have exactly the same payment. I'm clicking on Sign Now. I get onto a Ponto page where I need to confirm that I want to sign this payment. And then I'm automatically redirected to my bank. This is not controlled by us. This is what the bank provides. And it turns out that in the case of BNP Paribas Fortis, which is a Belgian bank, they ask you for the card number, they ask you for the client number, but anyway. So you are basically doing the flow at the bank side with the payment information that was sent. And I'm confirming it with It's Me, which is an identity provider that we use in Belgium, to actually sign really that payment at my bank. And then I'm obviously redirected back into Odoo right after. And so my payment now is marked as signed. So I had to create a different setup than the one that I have on my machine today to make that happen. But it gives you an idea also of how interesting it could be to start integrating these types of use cases inside an Odoo and inside a cash management platform or a banking platform. Again, very cool stuff that are there out of the box for those that sometimes have to deal with payments in your company. If you could just load an Excel with all of your payments, you can just use the import function, and you have all of those new payments that you can start signing. So anybody could just prepare payments, hundreds of payments, and then you could just come here and sign them. So this is just scratching the surface of the kind of financial services we could do within Odoo, all right? There's already a lot of things out of the box that allow this to happen in 40 hours of work, which is not that much compared to the kind of work that's being put by banks and by other players in making the same results. So it really shows also how powerful a tool like Odoo can be. But that's not the end of it, in our opinion, because if you really want to work towards better cash management for companies, you need to also really look at predicting the future, right? And how can you predict the future? You need your accounts receivable. You need to know what invoices you're going to send. You need to know your payroll information. You need to know also what's in your sales pipe, because if you know that you're going to close a deal that's going to start at a specific date, you can already predict all of that and get that into consideration to your whole product. And so there are cash management and cash forecasting platforms that suck up all that data out of Odoo, but maybe we can also do the opposite. We can also bring those financial services and bring those use cases within Odoo directly. And I think that's really where a company like Odoo can play a very interesting role. So that's not done yet, obviously. I'm still starting with this. I'm playing around with it, using it on my own data for a while now, for a few weeks. Playing around with the possibilities that Odoo offers. I plan on actually exposing this module open source on GitHub. So if you are interested in looking up a bit at how it's built, I will post it very soon there. It's just that right now it's still missing an icon and all of that cool things you expect to have from a custom module. So I'm not fully done yet, but I will publish it there. So yeah, to me, it really is, in a nutshell, what I wanted to show is how powerful it can be to put financial services inside Odoo. And if you get to that point where you can gather all of that systemic data that Odoo has already for all of their customers, you could also start embedding other types of financial services. If you can see already that you're going to not have enough cash in 6 months, we can probably also, through Odoo, propose you a loan, right? A business loan, or propose you to sell your invoices, your pending invoices, so that you can make some cash. So all of this embedded inside Odoo would truly make Odoo the new operating system of an SME and a company. Since we started a bit late, I'm gonna end my presentation here to leave room for questions. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. No question?
Okay, actually, I have one question.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So, hello everybody, I'm Zola, I'm working at Support in Odoo. First of all, thank you for the talk, it was really interesting. It's really nice that you will propose that module open source, so thank you for the community. So currently, for the regulation, we are with PSD2,
yep.
Right? And I wanted to know if you have any idea of what will come next.
Okay. For those who've been already working with PSD2 connections, you've noticed that every 3 months you need to renew the connection with the bank. That's an annoying thing that exists for everyone in the financial space. The first thing that will be improved is that this will be extended to 180 days by law. So it's going to be 6 months instead of 3. But it's not the only thing that's happening. The European Commission is today also reviewing the whole PSD2 framework altogether and trying to see what they can fix, or at least what they can change in the short term, but also in the longer term, in a new revised directive. There is also limitations in what PSD2 allows in terms of accounts that you can connect. Today, the accounts you can connect with these connections are only payment accounts, so current accounts, are mostly the only types of accounts you can connect. There's another framework that is in preparation called Open Finance, which will likely, it's not certain yet, but will likely actually expand that to other types of accounts as well. So at least savings from what we hope for, so that you can really truly start doing actual, moving money here and there between also savings accounts and all that. So this would already create a little bit more data set. To be seen if old credit cards and all of that will be in there, but clearly the financial space is opening more and more towards this type of embedded finance use cases, making sure that companies and customers can, with their own consent, share that data and share those capabilities with other platforms. So the legal landscape is also moving, indeed.
Thank you.
Hi. Did you implement your logic for other countries also?
Well, it supports only single currency, so euros only. So with that, it means it works in all countries for accounts in euros. If you have accounts in another currency, it won't work. But right now, all accounts in euro around Europe are supported by this. And on Ponto, we connect to about 1,800 banks in Europe. So everything that's, I would say, Germany and so a part of Central Europe, Western Europe, Southern Europe are quite well connected by Ponto today.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2 questions.
There is less info available via PSD2 than Coda, for instance, in Belgium. Do you know if that's going to be better in the future?
Indeed. For those who are not from Belgium, Coda is really just a a Belgian format that is being used to exchange banking data between banks and mostly accountants. And indeed, it's richer data than what we get in the PSD2 interfaces. There are many reasons for that, but I would say the primary one is that banks didn't really see fit to provide the same quality. That's a fact. However, we've also made an analysis on this, and most of the accounting use cases or cash management use case can still be done with PSD2 data. Is it going to change? There's push to increase the quality of the data. Will we get to the level we have in Coda or in an MT file? I don't know. But there's clearly push all over Europe to increase that quality as soon as possible. So this is actually part of even the discussions we have about reviewing the regulation right now. But it will take time to get there. It will take time. But yeah, it's a fact. The quality is less. It's less qualitative than Coda or even an IBIX message file or even a CAMT that you might get from your bank directly. That's for sure. There was another question at the back over there. Yeah?
I find it very interesting that you use the Odoo framework to integrate some cache features. Do you intend to integrate with the accounting module?
Well, that's one of the things I would like to experiment with, because as I said, if you really want to go into forecasting, getting invoices from the accounting module and really getting also the insights from the accountant, because again, an accountant will have a completely different focus than somebody who manages daily finance, right? So, and at some point it's unclear yet, will this eventually get into Odoo accounting? Will this? But indeed, integration with Odoo accounting is definitely the next step into gathering more data. But not only, as I said, CRM is important as well, just to get the pipe, and payroll data as well. Because if you really want to know if you have enough cash at the end of the month to pay your employees and to do what you need to do for your business, we will need to integrate all of that into a central place. And fortunately, in Odoo, these things are already there. If you play from outside of Odoo, you have to go gather all of that. But from within Odoo, it's already there, you just need to connect to it. So yes, definitely that's one of the possibly next things that I would want to investigate in my spare time. The goal of this is really to see if people are interested in experimenting with us on these use cases, just come to me, come to our booth, and so we can discuss it. So it's G6, G9? Okay, all right. Thanks, Suzanne. So G9 or G6, sorry. I'm not dyslexic, but anyway. But yeah, so come to talk to us at the booth. We're also trying to see if we can find actually some companies that are ready to try that module on their own data on-premise. This is running on Odoo Community, by the way. So this can be deployed on even an on-premise instance. It might be later on in the store. I still need to work on making that happen. But yeah, that's really the idea for us. Exploring those use cases because we're just interested in what can be done within Odoo.
Is it available for version 16?
I haven't tried it out on version 16 yet, so I must admit this is my very first Odoo integration. I'm not even a Python developer. I haven't been even developing for years now. So that's also one of the things that I find quite interesting. I think there's really the quick start. You know, getting up to an Hello World module is quite easy. And then there's this bit of despair, right? Where you want to try to do things, more complex things, and then you end up into some of the technical choices, some of the retrocompatibility that still exists. So there's like you get lost, and then suddenly you get more fluent and you make things happen. And I'm at that point now where, yeah, it's there, it's working, I can show it, but I haven't tested it yet on the latest version. I haven't pushed it yet to the store.
Yes, I was interested in the accounting question integration, and what I would find great also as a SME user is to have a kind of integration directly with the bank when I have, for instance, invoices that I need to pay. Because for now, you know, I just scan my invoices and then pay on my bank account and then match with the transactions. Is that also something that you're investigating?
We could imagine the payment functionality I showed. We
Yeah.
could imagine just building a module that comes on top of Odoo accounting that just adds a sign payment. That is definitely something that's feasible. That would still require that you use a Ponto account. But I think that in the context of Odoo, and you've heard maybe statements that I think a developer mentioned yesterday, they would like to get rid of players like us. It's totally understandable. And by players like us, I mean branded platforms that you have to go through in order to connect bank accounts or make payments. Because remember, if you're not a licensed entity, if you're not supervised by the national bank of your country, you cannot access those APIs. So you have to go through a platform like this. It turns out that Odoo has a license, but just for account information. So they could eventually indeed get rid of that friction, I would say. But it means that they then would need to take on all the complexity of the support cases. And for all of those who have been using a PSD2 interface through Odoo, you know that sometimes it can be a pain with some banks. And somebody needs to take care of that relationship. So for now, it's, I would say, a necessary evil. But Odoo has the possibility to just connect to those banks straight themselves, or to go through an aggregator of APIs that we also provide, which will remove this friction, this user experience. So, but only for account information. For payment, Odoo doesn't have that license yet. Getting to the point where you have a payment license, because you need a payment institution license to do that, requires then much heavier regulatory constraints. And the question is, will Odoo get into that space or work with players like us or others? It's still unclear, but definitely including payments like I showed you here inside the different flows, inside the accounting module and even elsewhere, is to me just an evidence of where Odoo should go next in these types of features.
I guess we're done. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for your attention. No more questions or? Ah, yeah, okay. Still one. Okay.
One.
All right, so the question is, since you don't have a mic, the question is, does Odoo have the ambition to get that payment license? I'm not from Odoo. You need to ask the guy that was on stage before me. So I have no clue, honestly. I think it's a personal opinion, nothing Odoo related. I think it would make sense, but in a company like Odoo that is doing so many things, and considering the constraints, the regulatory constraints, will it have enough focus to do this properly? You know that they have, well, maybe you don't know, but they have created an Odoo Finance subsidiary. It's still unclear what they plan on doing with it, but it could be that this is in their future plans. But I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not Fabien, so I cannot really tell you that. I can't. You'll need to ask him. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, thank you very much for your attention. Please go get lunch and see you later. Bye.